Welcome to Lesson 26.3, Primate Evolution. In this lesson, we'll identify the characteristics that all primates share, describe the major evolutionary groups of primates, describe the adaptations that enabled later hominine species to walk upright, and describe the current scientific thinking about the genus Homo. In general, a primate is a mammal that has relatively long fingers and toes with nails instead of claws, arms that can rotate around shoulder joints, a strong clavicle, binocular vision, and a well-developed cerebrum. Primates typically have 5 flexible fingers and toes on each hand or foot that can curl to grip objects firmly and precisely. This enables many primates to run along tree limbs and swing from branch to branch with ease. In addition, most primates have thumbs and big toes that can move against the other digits. This allows many primates to hold objects firmly in their hands or feet. Primates' arms are well suited for climbing because they can rotate in broad circles around a strong shoulder joint attached to a strong clavicle or collarbone. Many primates have a broad face, so both eyes face forward with overlapping fields of view. This facial structure gives primates excellent binocular vision. Binocular vision is the ability to combine visual images from both eyes, providing depth perception and a three-dimensional view of the world. This comes in handy for judging the locations of tree branches from which many primates swing. Primates, the thinking part of their brain, the cerebrum, is large and intricate. This well-developed cerebrum enables more complex behaviors that are found in many other mammals. For example, many primate species create elaborate social systems that include extended families, adoption of orphans, and even warfare between rival troops. Humans and other primates evolved from a common ancestor that lived more than 65 million years ago. One recent discovered fossil, which lived 56 million years ago in Wyoming, has been proposed as an example of the first primate. Early in their history, primates split into 2 groups. Primates in one of these groups looked very little like typical monkeys. This group contains the lemurs and lorises. The other group included tarsiers and the anthropoids, the group that includes monkeys, great apes, and humans. The cladogram shows current hypotheses about the evolutionary relationship and sequential nature of these groups. With few exceptions, lemurs and lorises are small nocturnal primates with large eyes adapted to seeing in the dark. Many have long snouts. Living members include bush babies of Africa, the lemurs of Madagascar, and the lorises of Asia. Primates more closely related to humans than to lemurs belong to a different group, members of which have broader faces and wider separated nostrils. This group includes the tarsiers of Asia and anthropoids. Anthropoids, or human-like primates, include monkeys, great apes, and humans. Anthropoids split into 2 groups around 45 million years ago as the continents on which they lived move apart. Members of one anthropoid branch, the New World monkeys, are found in Central and South America. Europeans referred to North and South America as the New World. Members of this group, which include squirrel monkeys and spider monkeys, live almost entirely in trees. They have long, flexible arms that enable them to swing from branch to branch. New World monkeys also have a long, prehensile tail that can coil tightly enough around a branch to serve as a 5th hand. The other anthropoid branch, which evolved in Africa and Asia, includes the Old World monkeys and great apes. Old World monkeys spend time in trees but lack prehensile tails. Great apes, also called hominoids, include gibbons, orangutans, gorillas, chimpanzees, and humans. Recent DNA analysis confirmed that among the great apes, chimpanzees are the humans' closest relatives. Between 6 and 7 million years ago, the lineage that led to humans split from the lineage that led to chimpanzees. The hominoids in that lineage that led to the humans are called hominines. Hominines include modern humans and all other species more closely related to us than to chimpanzees. The hominines evolved the ability to walk upright, grasping thumbs and large brains. The chart shows some ways in which the skeletons of modern humans differ from those of hominidoids such as gorillas. The skull, neck, spinal column, hip bones, and leg bones of early hominine species changed shape in ways that enabled later species to walk upright. The evolution of this bipedal or two-footed locomotion was very important because it freed both hands to use tools. Meanwhile, the hominine hand evolved an opposable thumb that could touch the tips of the fingers, enabling the grasping of objects and the use of tools. In addition to skeletal changes, hominines also evolved much larger brains. The brains of chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, typically range in volume from 280 to 450 cubic centimeters. The brains of Homo sapiens, on the other hand, range in size from 1200 to 1600 cubic centimeters. Most of the difference in brain size results from a radically expanded cerebrum. Since the 1990s, new discoveries in Africa have doubled the number of known hominine species. Those discoveries also doubled the length of the known hominine fossil record from 3.5 million years to 7 million years, a time that corresponds closely to the time at which DNA studies suggest that the lineage that led to humans split from the lineage that led to chimpanzees. Questions still remain as to how fossil hominines are related to one another and to humans. Most paleontologists agree that the hominine fossil record includes 7 genera and at least 20 species. These diverse hominine fossils stretch back in time from roughly 7 million years ago. All of these species are relatives of modern humans, but not all of them are human ancestors. In 2002, paleontologists working in north-central Africa discovered a fossil skull roughly 7 million years old. This fossil is 1 million years older than any other known hominine. It had a brain about the size of that of a modern chimp, but its short, broad face was more like that of a human. Scientists are still debating whether this fossil represents a hominine. Some early hominine fossil species seem to belong to the lineage that led to modern humans, while others formed separate branches off the main hominine line. One early group of hominines of the genus Australopithecus lived from about 4 million to about 1.5 million years ago. These hominines were bipedal apes, but their skeletons suggest that they probably spent at least some time in trees. The structure of their teeth suggests a diet rich in fruit. The best known of these species is Australopithecus afarensis, which lived from roughly 4 million to 2.5 million years ago. The human-like footprints shown on the slide, which are about 3.6 million years old, were probably made by members of this species. A. afarensis fossils indicate the species had small brains, so the footprints show that hominines walked bipedally long before large brains evolved. Other fossils of this genus indicate that males were much larger than females. The best known A. afarensis specimen is a remarkably complete skeleton of a female discovered in 1974, nicknamed Lucy. Lucy stood about 1 meter tall and lived about 3.2 million years ago. In 2006, an Ethiopian researcher announced the discovery of some incredibly well-preserved 3.3 million year old fossils of a very young female hominine. The skeleton included a nearly complete skull and jaws, torso, spinal column, limbs, and left foot. This fossil was assigned to A. afarensis, the same species as Lucy, and nicknamed the Dakika baby, after the region in Africa where it was discovered. Leg bones confirmed that the Dakika baby walked bipedally, while her arm and shoulder bones suggested that she would have been a better climber than modern humans. Researchers will be extracting information from these bones for years. The timeline diagram shows hominine species known from fossils and the time ranges during which each species probably existed. These time ranges may change as paleontologists gather new data. Several current competing hypotheses present different ideas about how all these species are related to one another and to Homo sapiens. So far, there is no single, universally accepted hypothesis, so these data are presented as a timeline rather than as a cladogram. The fossil record shows that hominine evolution did not proceed along a simple, straight-line transformation of one species into another. Rather, a series of adaptive radiations produced a number of species, several of which display a mix of primitive and modern traits. About 2 million years ago, a new group of hominine fossil species appeared. Several of these fossils resemble modern human bones enough that they have been classified in the genus Homo. One set of fossils from this time period was found with tools made of stone and bone, so it was named Homo habilis, which means handyman in Latin. The earliest fossils that most researchers agree can be definitely assigned to the genus Homo have been called Homo ergaster. H. ergaster was larger than H. habilis and had a bigger brain and downward-facing nostrils that resembled those of modern humans. Homo rudolfensis appeared before H. ergaster, but some researchers choose to classify it in the genus Australopithecus instead of Homo. Researchers agree that our genus originated in Africa and migrated from there to populate the world, but questions remain. For example, when did hominines first leave Africa? Did more than one species make the trip? Which of those species were human ancestors and which were merely relatives? This diagram shows some of the current hypotheses. Fossil and molecular evidence suggests that some hominines left Africa long before Homo sapiens evolved. It also appears that more than one Homo species made the trip in waves. Again, researchers differ as to the identity of various fossils, but agree that hominins began migrating out of Africa at least 1.8 million years ago. Hominine remains from that period were found in the Republic of Georgia, which is north of Turkey and far from Africa. Some researchers who have examined those remains argue that they might belong to a smaller-brained Homo species, Homo habilis. According to some researchers, groups of Homo erectus left Africa and traveled all the way across India and through China to Southeast Asia. In fact, some of the oldest known specimens of H. erectus were uncovered on the Indonesian island of Java. This suggests that these ancient wanderers spread very rapidly once they left Africa. These H. erectus populations continue to survive and evolve across Asia for as long as 1.5 million years. Paleontologists have long debated where and when Homo sapiens arose. One hypothesis, called the multi-regional model, suggests that in several parts of the world, modern humans evolved independently from widely separated populations of H. erectus. Another hypothesis, the out of Africa model, proposes that modern humans evolved in Africa about 200,000 years ago, migrated out of Africa through the Middle East, and replaced the descendants of earlier hominine species. Recently, molecular biologists analyzed mitochondrial DNA from living humans around the world to determine when we last shared a common ancestor. The estimated date for that African common ancestor is between 200,000 and 150,000 years ago. More recent DNA data suggest that a small subset of those African ancestors left northeastern Africa between 65,000 and 50,000 years ago to colonize the world. These data strongly support the out of Africa model. The story of modern humans over the past 200,000 years involves two main species in the genus Homo. Homo neanderthalensis, or Neanderthals, flourished in Europe and Western Asia beginning about 200,000 years ago. Evidence suggests that they made stone tools, lived in complex social groups, had controlled use of fire, and were excellent hunters. They buried their dead with simple rituals. Neanderthals survived in parts of Europe until about 28,000 to 24,000 years ago. The anatomically modern Homo sapiens, whose skeletons look like those of today's humans, arrived in the Middle East from Africa about 100,000 years ago. By about 50,000 years ago, H. sapien populations were using new technology to make more sophisticated stone blades. They also began to make elaborately worked tools from bones and antlers. They produced spectacular cave paintings and buried their dead with elaborate rituals. In other words, these people, including the group known as Cro-Magnons, began to behave like modern humans. When Homo sapiens arrived in the Middle East, they found Neanderthals already living there. Neanderthals and Homo sapiens lived side by side in the Middle East for about 50,000 years. Groups of modern humans moved into Europe between 40,000 and 32,000 years ago. There, too, Homo sapiens coexisted alongside Neanderthals for several thousand years. For the last 24,000 years, however, our species has been Earth's only hominine.